Alright, what up? You feel me? We got a new title. Y'all seen the title, the Black Joy Paradox. If you don't know what the Black Joy Paradox is, I did a little bit of research on what exactly this title meant. What does it talk about? Basically, the concept of it is offering a solution to cinema and Hollywood and all of that. Basically, movies that like to exploit and use the trauma that black people historically have. You know what I mean? Like slavery. You know, that's a very popular one right there. They use things like slavery and then they profit off of those traumas. So what Black Joy does is it offers a solution to this whole thing. You know what I mean? Where it shows, okay, well, black people, we're not just this one thing. We're not just our trauma. We still, you know, have like this joyous, there's this joy about us. You know what I mean? We still got like something else. We not just slavery. You know what I mean? Basically offers a different representation of black people. You know what I mean? I don't know if I explained it that well, but this is why this video is here, to basically break it down to us in a fun and interesting way. Let's just check it out. You know, I'm gonna stop my yapping. Like, subscribe, comment. I'm done.
So, just so we're clear, if Commander Justice was played by a black guy, then we'd have to support it?
Yes.
So, like The Rock?
Well, maybe not The Rock.
Will Smith?
Not Will Smith either.
No more black trauma on screen. We want black joy. Too bad the black joy is right in front of you. It's now officially been over a year since I've started actively making content on YouTube. And while this channel is dedicated to cultural critiques and media analysis, it will always primarily focus on black media analysis. I've stated this before, and the reason being, it's practically impossible to separate racial politics from how we as black people create art. It doesn't matter if it's music, film, or poetry, all forms of black media are shaped by racial politics, whether we see it at a surface level or not. When it comes to film, the way those politics shape it can be a little more complex, as they play a role in both how films are made as well as how they're perceived. Despite Hollywood being more inclusive than it was in past decades, black people are still not in complete and total control over our stories. Still find ourselves having to navigate the world through the lens of respectability politics in order to avoid offending white sensibilities. Regardless of who writes, directs, or produces it, as long as it's being funded by the Hollywood system, black stories will always, in some way, shape, or form, face pushback from said system. Combine this with Hollywood's tendency to paint black stories in a monolithic fashion, it's no surprise that certain stigmas started to get attached to black films. Stigmas that, in turn, affect how we as black audiences end up perceiving our own movies. Despite the myriad of black stories that we now have access to on screen, there's this notion that mainstream black cinema centers solely around trauma. Years of Hollywood's exploitation and taking advantage of our traumatic experiences for profit has convinced many of us into believing this sentiment. And before you know it, the majority of mainstream black cinema ends up getting reduced to quote-unquote trauma porn. It doesn't matter what genre or subject matter. From historical narratives to science fiction, all the way to works of playwrights like August Wilson. Yeah, apparently August Wilson is trauma porn now. As false as this narrative is, it does pose the question: what do black audiences truly want out of black cinema? If everything on screen is allegedly black trauma constantly thrown out, what's the alternative that we want to see? Where's the solution? Well, fuck the solution. Who needs any of that when you can always throw everything behind black joy? Is that joyful enough? I don't know if you've heard, but we're done with all that trauma. Black joy is the new hot thing. When discussing black cinema and the problems of Hollywood's tendency to exploit our trauma for profit, the concept of black joy is frequently thrown around as a solution, often used to dismiss films that depict our suffering in favor of something more lighthearted. However, this outlook isn't as helpful in the long run as we may think. As well-intended and admirable as it may be, relying solely on the concept of black joy is unhelpful, as it only helps further confine black cinema into a box, reducing the myriad of black experiences down to just pain and joy, not realizing that the two are almost always interconnected. So let's see if we can find this so-called black...
To be honest, I don't mind you know, the cinema showing black trauma, you know what I mean? I really don't mind it. If anything, that stuff is either gonna inspire me, or most of the time it does, you know. Seeing black people either get it, you know, get out of that trauma, you feel me? Get out of that pain, you feel me? Into this joy. I like movies like that a lot, you know. And just movies that do show, you know, that are like just funny, laughy, haha, you know what I mean? Everything is just so positive, you feel me? I like black movies that are like that as well, you feel me? I think both should be depicted, you know? And I really don't see a problem with it, you feel me? Whether people call it exploitive or not, that stuff can sometimes motivate me, you know? Whether it's black people going through it or black people being joyous, you know? If it's black people being joyous, I'm gonna be motivated like, dang, let me be happy. If it's black people, you know, they struggling, I'm gonna be like, dang, let me make sure I don't struggle. You know what I mean? Shoot, so, yeah, you know. Let me try not to struggle like that, you know what I mean?
You can find this so-called black joy to escape from all the trauma, and in the process, you might just find that they have more in common than you think.
Back of the bus, the Rosa Parks story.
Pass.
As usual, before we get started, let's establish a few things. Despite what the title may say, I am not anti-black people experiencing joy. This video is not attacking lighthearted, feel-good, happy black stories. Nor is it saying that black folks being miserable on screen is a requirement. That's just flat out ridiculous. That's like saying I hate babies and puppies. In addition, this video is also not downplaying or dismissing the sentiments to why the phrase is often said. Whenever people say we want more black joy on screen, it's usually in response to Hollywood shamelessly releasing a trauma-centric project that usually attempts to capitalize off of a much larger trend or movement. It's a disgusting and exploitative attempt to try to lure in black dollars by profiting off of our pain, something that they've done for years now. These are valid issues within the entertainment industry that folks have been trying to address for years. This video is pushing back against the concept of black joy as a solution to Hollywood's exploitation of our trauma. Often when trying to criticize this, we claim to want more black joy on screen without ever really being able to articulate what that looks like. It's a throwaway phrase, a nebulous term that only gets brought up when it's time to dismiss films that either center around trauma or make us uncomfortable. To put it plainly, it's a cop-out. Solely relying on broad phrases such as "we want more black joy" does nothing to challenge the root causes of the problem. That problem being Hollywood's tendency to not only exploit and bastardize our pain on screen for a cheap and easy profit, but not putting much care and nuance into it either. Diluting the black experience on film into one giant monolith. Attempting to cover that up with an umbrella of black joy does the exact same thing, only on an opposite end of the spectrum. It becomes the feel-good version of the exact same problem. The phrase ends up being a walking contradiction. To illustrate this, we'll break it down into two things. How the phrase itself is redundant.
I don't know if I understand what this guy is talking about. I think what he's trying to say is, you have all of this black trauma in it. I actually don't know. I don't know what he's talking about, you know? Because I don't really see it as a cover-up. You know, maybe that's just me. I see it more as like a, you know, it's just adding something else, you know, instead of just having all of these movies that have black people in it just going through it, you know, having other things like black people living it up, black people living a good life, black people, you know, not always going through, because you're always going to have a movie where people are going through it, but for most of the time, just 100% of the time, just, you know, going through, like, suffering and pain and stuff like that, you know, don't always want to see that. We don't always want to see that. Sometimes we want to see those black joyous movies, too, you know, and that's what I'm thinking, like, I don't know if I understand fully what he's trying to say, but let's just keep watching. Maybe I'll understand it throughout.
And undefined, as well as how it's hypocritical in practice. In doing so, we can see how the black joy that we so desperately want on screen has been right in front of us this whole time. So, let's dig in.
You no business born insecure junkyard motherfucker!
Nah, I don't think there's nothing wrong with
It's easy to write off black stories that feature traumatic experiences as quote-unquote trauma porn, but when you examine how loosely the phrase is applied, you see that it starts to lose its meaning. It's not hard to spot and identify when a black character is experiencing some sort of racial trauma in a story. However, what's not so easy to identify is when it becomes trauma porn. What makes that distinction? Where is the line drawn? The way that every black person experiences racism and racial trauma is going to be different, and likewise, the way that every black person expresses and articulates said experiences is going to be even more different. While some filmmakers may explore historical accounts and biographies, others may depict our trauma through everyday contemporary experiences. Some filmmakers will use absurdism and comedic elements to explore it, while others may interweave it within other genres of film.
Okay, I think I'm starting to slowly get it.
Such as horror or action. In some instances, the trauma may be the centerpiece of the film, but for many others, it's just another aspect of the world the characters live in. There becomes no singular way to identify what constitutes quote-unquote trauma porn, as there's no singular way to quantify racial trauma. The same goes for Black Joy, as both it and trauma are too broad of emotions to lump into a singular category of movie. They become impossible to define or put parameters around because of their range. Like trauma, joy is just one part of the spectrum of human emotion that's expressed in different ways. Joy can be the tone of a movie, but it could also be something expressed by the characters. Or it could be a goal of one of the characters, something that they're on an arc trying to find. They have almost infinite applications, making it impossible to examine joy and trauma separately, because to do so would isolate them from their respective context. Both Black Joy and trauma exist within the context of the story. It doesn't matter what that...
Right. I feel like, and I was also thinking, like, movies, you kind of want to have both of them, right? If it's just, a whole lot of trauma, a whole lot of pain, people just going through it all the time, there's like dang, this person was just really just went, like, I just watched a whole movie where somebody was just having a terrible life. There was no like real good climax, you know what I mean? Normally the climax is a good thing, you feel me? But if it's like a movie just filled with a bunch of pain and suffering and all of that, I'm sure there's movies out there, but if it just ends there, you feel me? That's kind of crazy, I guess me personally, I like movies that, kind of get you attached to the characters and then show you the pain that they go through, show you where they're trying to get to. Basically what you're talking about, like where they go on that arc. I like that. You know what I mean? I like movies that are like that. And hold on, let me stop yapping. Let me just see what
that story is, or the genre. It can be sci-fi, western, romance, action, or comedy. They can also be experienced simultaneously. They're both emotions, invoked by different things and displayed in different ways. For example, Cooley High, directed by Michael Scholl, centers around a group of black boys growing up in Chicago during their final weeks of high school. A classic coming-of-age film, it doesn't focus solely on black joy or trauma, but rather the wide spectrum of experiences. We see the characters go through moments of thrill, joy, and fun amongst each other, as well as the bad decisions and mistakes they make along the way. Some mistakes that have more dire consequences than others. We see characters at their high points as well as their lows. We see them as fleshed out characters, as human beings. This isn't exclusive to just Cooley High. The same can be said about any black coming-of-age film, regardless of the decade it was released or the subject matter. The trauma depicted isn't the focus of the film, but rather just an element of the character's experiences. Another example of this is through comedy, with films such as Life, Harlem Nights, and more recently, Sorry to Bother You, Atlanta, and They Clone Tyrone. The racial politics in these works are pretty explicitly shown, and plot devices for the characters.
Okay, I think I understand what he's trying to say. I understand his point. You know what I mean? And I think I agree. I feel like I think I know what he's saying, because we barely like halfway through the video. What I'm gonna say, a couple things that I want to say. You want to make a good movie, don't just make it about joy. Don't just make it about trauma. Have a little bit of everything in that. You know what I mean? Share, and depending on what your story is about as well, you feel me? Depending on what your movie or story is about, And I think that's what he's trying to say. Having all of these shared experiences, you know, that black people normally have, or probably not normally, but that black people or a black person would have, you know what I mean? Having that pain and having that joy in unison, you know, makes a good movie. You feel me? Kind of like what he was showing, you know. Like, he might go look at this movie. I ain't gonna lie, the dang, what is it, Cooley High or whatever? I might go look at this, you feel me? I might go watch it just because he mentioned it, you feel me? Where was I at? Was it like, what, 9 something? Yeah, I might go watch that, you know. So, yeah.
All of this is through comedy, with films such as Life, Harlem Nights, and more recently, Sorry to Bother You, Atlanta, and They Clone Tyrone. The racial politics in these works are pretty explicitly shown, and plot devices for the characters. However, they don't detract from the joy, thrill, fun, or silliness that the characters may experience. For many of these films, it's just a part of the backdrop, and we as an audience see the characters navigate through it, whether it be through hope, perseverance, optimism, irony, sheer will, or even something as simple as humor. A black story, regardless of genre, tone, or the mood it invokes, can still contain trauma. A black film having traumatic moments for the characters does not by default make it trauma porn. Because of this, trying to look for films that solely rely on black joy and are devoid of any sort of trauma is damn near impossible, as at the end of the day, even if it isn't racially motivated, they still are just two spectrums of emotions expressed within the context of their stories. They're interconnected, sharing so much overlap to the point where defining them with a singular definition is impossible. Films that could be considered trauma-centric could also apply to films centered around the theme of finding joy. It's all about how it's expressed on screen. Attempting to isolate the two from each other fails because it requires you to isolate them from the context of their stories. All of the films just shown contain just as much joy as they do trauma. However, why don't we consider the majority of these films trauma porn? Well, that's because it has nothing to do with the trauma itself, but rather how it's presented, as well as who's presenting it. Black media starts to get labeled trauma porn when it's done in an exploitative, tasteless fashion, trying to emphasize the painful aspects of the black experience without any sort of care or nuance. Whether it be through unnecessary displays of graphic violence or using the trauma as nothing more than a prop in stage. This all stems from Hollywood's tendency to treat black audiences and our films as a monolith, thinking that our stories and day-to-day lives all fit into a cookie-cutter template of racial trauma. They think that sensationalizing the violence or depicting the trauma without contributing any sort of analysis or commentary is enough. The trauma becomes the default on screen, and any storytelling is formed around it. The industry will see movies like Get Out perform really well at the box office and then try to repeat the success without realizing why the movie did so well in the first place. Audiences were given a film about the insidious nature of white supremacy, how it takes many forms and loves to hide in plain sight, particularly disguising as white liberals. But what did Hollywood see? Sci-fi? Horror? Racism? Genius! Remember slavery? Remember Jim Crow? Well, what if you combine that with Hot Tub Time Machine? It's how we get all the shameless black trauma sci-fi horror movies we still see today. I think it's safe to say we don't need another plantation time travel movie. It's something that's already been well explored. When black trauma becomes the default, you end up lumping the black experience on screen into one giant box. It's also
Okay, so hold on.
The same reason why the blanket statement of black joy by itself fails as a solution. The monolith remains. The root cause of this was Hollywood not treating our stories with care, and just pasting a black joy aesthetic over this does nothing to address this, as the only reason why it became trauma porn in the first place was due to Hollywood's exploitation and not caring about the stories themselves. When black stories aren't thrown into boxes and treated with respect, then you don't have to worry about it becoming trauma porn. You engage with the story for what it is, and the black joy comes with it. But I know what some of you may be thinking. We get all that, Pillboy, but we're still exhausted. You're telling me black people can't have any art on screen that's divorced from racial politics? Any? Sometimes you just want to see a nigga fight aliens. What's wrong with that? Nothing. There's nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, we should embrace more feel-good, happy, escapist black stories. There's only one glaring problem. None of us are watching them.
play with tail between legs.
Good title.
I wrote and directed it. It all takes place at a strip club. 2 gangbangers hold a pastor, a drug dealer, and a pregnant teen hostage in the middle of Hurricane Katrina.
That's a real situation. I'm glad that story's being told.
Already adapted it into a movie.
I take it nobody wants to see yet another half-hearted fictional account of American slavery or a whitewashed and watered-down retelling of civil rights figures. Don't worry, I'm right behind you. Earlier at the very beginning of the video, I said that I wasn't going to be dismissing the feelings of black audiences in regards to why so many of us are so frustrated and cynical of Hollywood's treatment of black cinema. We're exhausted. You can't expect an audience to be anything but exhausted when Hollywood has time and time again proven that they will shamelessly display our pain as long as it's profitable, regardless of the emotional fatigue it leaves on us. No matter how much care, grace, and nuance you may give a black story on screen, those traumatic moments in it can still be too much for an audience member to handle. It doesn't matter how beautiful a movie is, no one should ever have to trigger themselves in the name of art. But this disregard of the emotional well-being of black audiences is just another result of the aforementioned monolith that Hollywood likes to paint us in. This fallacy that just because black people have to live through the perils of racism and white supremacy on a daily basis means that we have to be strong enough to see it on screen 24/7. No. Black audiences have every right to be cynical with Hollywood. However, that cynicism has in turn blinded and shut us off from a lot of black stories that are trying to give us exactly what it is that we want to see. The problem is, we like to make claims of wanting to see more black joy on screen, but then not watching said black joy when it's presented on screen. Within the past 5 years, there have been countless black movies and television shows that have been released that combat the black trauma porn narrative. However, many of them go unwatched. The amount of time and effort we spend criticizing the relatively small amount of films that either exploit or emphasize our trauma is almost never spent on films that focus on fantasy and escapism. And this is not a new trend either. This problem has been going on for years. But why is that? Why is it that we're not supporting the films that we so desperately crave from black cinema? Well, it's a mix of factors, a combination of a lack of awareness that many of these films even exist, as well as us just being hypocrites in general. The first and most glaring reason why we're not watching these movies is because, well, many of us don't even know they exist. This can't be entirely blamed on black audiences, as not all of these films were marketed the same. Films like The Little Mermaid, The Color Purple, or Bad Boys were all Hollywood blockbusters and received much higher budgets and were shown in more theaters than smaller films like American Fiction, The Book of Clarence, and The Blackening. With less people even knowing the movie exists.
I watched The Book of Clarence. I know there's a lot of Christians who say it's blasphemy. I still watched it. And I don't know, I feel like it was good, you know. You know, I enjoy watching it myself.
Less people are obviously going to go see it. However, this isn't a good enough excuse for as much energy as we spend.
Was it like perfect depiction of the Bible and everything? I don't think it was supposed to be anyway, you know, but you know, it was cool. You know, I enjoyed watching it, so.
Complaining that these films don't exist, that energy isn't translating into ticket sales and box office revenue. If we want to see these movies, we have to make an effort to go out and look for them. That includes supporting them when they get released through non-mainstream and independent venues. In the past, I've talked about streaming services like Tubi and how it's such a great tool for black filmmakers. It allows for us to release independent and micro-budget films to large audiences for free. They don't nearly make as much money when compared to their Hollywood counterparts, but they still are a very tangible way of gaining access to more diverse black stories on screen. And when I say diverse, I mean diverse.
Man, the stuff they got on Tubi is crazy. I ain't even gonna hold you. Oh my shit.
Just about any type of black movie you can think of is on Tubi, no matter how niche or expansive. You want an action-based political thriller about a mom who learns of her secret special ops past after recovering from amnesia related to a car accident? No? That's okay, maybe you prefer a comedy. You want to see a bizarre yet fun comedy about a woman who, in an attempt to get over her breakup, enters a TV show to find out if her new love interest is a catfish? You want black westerns? They exist. Black fantasy? They exist. You want to see a nigga fight aliens? They definitely got it. Hell, you want to see a horror film about Santa terrorizing a black suburban town? They even got that. Just about any niche or genre of black film can be found there. These are smaller creators responding to Hollywood. Everything we've been vocalizing, they've actively been doing and deserve the support. If you like what's being released on these platforms and eventually want to see these stories on the big screen, you have to watch them. And they're more likely to fund and produce future works just like it. But Tubi isn't great for just new independent cinema. You've also got a vast catalog of past black theatrical films that do the exact same thing as mentioned, ranging all the way from the 1940s with films like New Orleans all the way to Spike Lee. Whatever the opposite of black trauma porn is, you're 9 times out of 10 gonna find it on platforms like this. With all that said, if you examine all of these films, from the independent ones to the ones done in Hollywood, from the ones that came out 7 years ago to the ones that came out 7 decades ago, you see that all of them have the same thing in common. None of these are explicitly black joy movies. Black joy isn't a genre the same way our trauma isn't a genre. These films cover such a wide range of topics, emotions, and genres that confining them to a box of quote-unquote black joy does nothing. All of the issues that come from loosely throwing around labels like trauma porn also apply to phrases like black joy. They become lazy generalizations, all based on Hollywood's tendency to put our stories into boxes. When we feed into this false dichotomy, it just furthers this issue, trapping black cinema in a rigid box. You ready to play a little game with me? No? That's okay. We can pause the video right here until you're ready.
Doing a pause the video real quick because I mess with the way this brother think right here, you feel me? I mess with the way this dude think, you feel me? What is it about the way this guy think, you feel me? Lazy generalization, you know. Humans always wanting to organize things and categorize things. This is kind of how us humans do. And this kind of broadened my mind on everything, you know, especially since I'm gonna be in the whole acting thing, you feel me? I ain't gonna talk too much on that, but especially since I'm gonna be in that scene, I like the way I feel like my vision just opened seeing this, because I'm like, dang, you do got a whole lot of black joy, and you do got a whole lot of like just trauma, black trauma, but just saying, you know, they're just lazy generalizations, as this dude said. It makes sense. You feel me? Kind of forgetting, like, it almost kind of forgets, like, what actually makes a good movie as well. Just trying to generalize certain things as, like, black joy and then black trauma, you feel me? Like, having both of those in one movie kind of makes it better. Does it not? You feel me? Having both of those, you know, of ups and downs and different emotions, like this guy said, makes movies good, you know? And that's what's up. You feel me? Shoot, makes a story good. I get it. I
Ready?
understand.
Great. Let's imagine a hypothetical black movie. This movie portrays both the celebration of black culture, resilience, and joy, along with the harsh realities of systemic oppression, violence, and suffering. How then do we categorize this film? Does it glorify black joy or reinforce the trauma of black existence? If a film embodies both of these, is it possible to
Don't categorize it. It's just a movie. Watch it and move on with your day. You feel me?
label it one or the other without diminishing the complex nature of what it means to be black? Should the existence of joy amidst trauma be celebrated as a testament to our resilience? Or should it be viewed as an attempt to diminish or sanitize the impact of our trauma? If black joy can only be understood through the lens of black trauma, does that mean true joy for black people is inherently intertwined with suffering? Or, conversely, does the mere presence of trauma in these stories mean that the system prevents us from expressing pure joy? Or even experiencing it? You're left with one big headache. It's a paradox. It forces you to reconsider and define how we consume black movies. Are they vehicles for healing through joy, or mirrors of repression through trauma? Or maybe it's both. Or maybe it's neither one of those. Black cinema, better yet black art in general, is too broad to apply lenses like this to. And as long as we keep applying this rigid criteria to black movies, we're not going to be able to appreciate everything that's out there available to us right now. The only solution is to stop applying boxes to black movies, on both Hollywood's end and ours. On Hollywood's end, we gotta continue to call out the lazy and shameless attempts at capitalizing off our pain. But on that same end, make sure that you're not downright dismissing black stories on screen. Analyze a black story on screen for what it is. If the story ends up being too much for you, that's okay. That doesn't mean it's inherently exploitative. It's just not for you. On our end, as audience members, we have to be more critical of ourselves when we engage in black movies. Are we so busy arguing about what quote-unquote black joy looks like on screen?
To be honest, I feel like it's not even that deep. You know, about to be the end of the video. I want to kind of give my 2 cents, you know what I mean? Because we do not generalize any other type of movie, at least not that I've heard. Ooh, that scared the hell out of me, bro. I just seen something fly past my freaking screen, bro. That scared me a little bit. Anyways, we don't generalize any other race of movie, you know. We don't say white movie. We don't say white joy or white trauma or Asian trauma or Asian joy, you know. We don't generalize any other movie. We do generalize black movies, and why is that? You know, why do we have the need to do that? You feel me? I feel like it's less deep than what people are trying to make it, you know? And all of it is just a big scheme to make money. You know what? I bet I could go to Google and I could see like Black Boy Joy or Black Joy merch on Google. And what is that merch there for? Is it really there for pushing black joy? Maybe. Somebody probably did put it up there for, you know, actually. But then again, even if they actually wanted to, they would be doing, I mean, they could do whatever they want, you know. But if they actually want to do that, they could give it out for free, you know. Make it offer based, you know. You want to make money off of it, make it offer based. You know what I mean? You want to actually push that black joy instead of selling a shirt to do that, because I don't feel like a shirt actually helps make people happy, you know. At least not that I've seen. I haven't looked at a Black Boy Joy or Black Joy shirt and been like just elated by it. You feel me? It's there to make money. They're trying to make money off of trauma and joy. You feel me? They're like, okay, y'all don't like this black trauma? Let's offer you some joy too. It's just a money scheme. That's how I see it, at least. You feel me? Now that this video has opened my eyes to other possibilities as well, and what, you know, it all really can be, you know. So yeah, it's there to make money, you know, and it's a genius way to make money as well. You feel me? They got all types of black joy and black boy joy, black girl joy merch. You feel me? All these movies and stuff. W advertisements, you know.
That we completely miss the movies and TV that are doing that exact.
Like when I say W advertisements, I mean like they're really good ways of making money. Since people, generally black people, feel like, okay, well, this is it, you know, this is nice, this is good, you know, I agree with this, let me go. If it agrees with what they already think, then they're gonna wanna go get it or buy it, you know. So yeah,
thing? What's stopping us from supporting the abundance of projects that already do that? At the end of the day, watch what you want to watch, whether it be a biography or an action flick. Just understand that black cinema has no specific labels to it, and the sooner you realize this, the more you appreciate what's in front of you. Whew, all this talk about pain and joy got me feeling a little woozy. On New Year's, I want to watch something silly, you know, a little heartfelt. I'm gonna go watch Meteor Man. Y'all remember Meteor Man? I like Meteor Man. Did you?
I never watched that before. But anyways, this is the end of the video. Like, comment, subscribe. A few things that I want to say. I was kind of going into this video thinking, oh, well, we're just going to be seeing what this guy has to say about Black Joy. But then I did see the, you feel me? And I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe he has a different thought process. And he did, you know. He definitely delivered on what I was expecting. You feel me? I did expect to learn something from this video. You feel me? I hope y'all enjoyed. Hope this opened y'all's mind to a different possibility, you know, different experience, and just something different in general, something new to your brain, because it definitely did offer me something new. I am a black person on YouTube, you know. I'm not black YouTube. I'm a black person on YouTube. Yeah. I don't got anything to say. I'm yapping. I'll see y'all later. Peace.